How you doing? You okay?
Hi, I'm just in the middle of something at the moment.
Yeah. Is that your drone, is it, mate?
Yeah.
Ah, lovely.
Sorry, did you want to speak to me about something?
We just come to have a chat with you because obviously we saw the drone being flown over a private check site.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so we just need to check some details through so we can make any referrals that we need to the CAA.
Sorry, hang on.
I'm sure there's nothing personal against yourself. Obviously, we're out conducting business and over on a private check site. We tend to come over, have a chat with people, make sure everything's all okay.
What's your first name, sir?
Sorry,
What's your first name?
what's my first
What
name?
is your first name?
I don't need to give my details, do I?
You've committed an offence because you've been...
Right, so over a bit of public land, it's an offence, is it?
Yes. What's the guidance you were given?
What's the offence you think I've committed?
Right, okay.
It's a bit presumptuous to start suggesting that I've committed an offence.
You're flying it over members of the police and members of the DVSA who are trying to do some work, okay?
Is that an offence?
It is an offence. I'm going to get you... You've asked me what the specific offence is, I'll get that for you.
Okay, if you could, yeah, that'd be great.
What's the local camera up here?
183. Have you been stopped by the police before? Have you...
Am I required to answer that question as well?
If you suspected of an offence,
Yeah.
then you'll be required to give me your details.
Right, what offence do you suspect me of committing?
We're going around in circles. You're flying the drone over a public place.
Flying a drone over a public place.
Okay, you want the specific act and section, yeah?
Yeah. Flying a drone over a private place might be something that's...
If you want to buy a field and fly your drone in it, no, I've got no issue with that, and the Civil
So
Aviation Authority...
so you think the only place I'm allowed to fly a drone is over my own land, is that so?
You think you can fly that through the middle of town, do you? Through amongst people's heads as they go out?
Before this conversation even begins, something critical has already happened, and if you blink, you'll miss it. A man is flying a drone, perfectly calm, fully informed, and within seconds, he's about to be questioned by authorities who sound confident, but may not actually understand the law they're trying to enforce. This is where things get interesting. Because what starts as a friendly chat quickly spirals into a legal tug-of-war over drone regulations, public access rights, and one key question: who actually knows the rules here? You've got an auditor who clearly came prepared, citing Civil Aviation Authority guidance like it's second nature, and on the other side, officers making claims that don't quite line up. No clear signage. No clearly stated offense. Yet somehow, demands for personal details are already on the table. So here's the twist: this isn't just about a drone. It's about authority, confidence, and what happens when those two don't match. Stick with this, because by the end, someone's credibility is going to take a serious hit, and it might not be who you expect.
I'm looking at this...
Have you got your body camera on?
Yeah.
Why haven't you told me about that?
Huh?
Why haven't you told me about that? It's your
I haven't had a
policy.
conversation yet with you.
Yeah, but if you're filming members of the public, unless you've got authorisation
Sir,
to do it covertly...
you just done
Sir,
same.
focus on me, because I'm talking to you about flying your drone, okay? So I'm quoting to you now from the Civil Aviation Authority website, okay?
Right.
This is the guidance: where you can fly, legal heights, distances from people, and where you must not fly.
Right. I'll be with you in a minute. It's obviously...
Do not fly closer to people than 50 metres.
Right, I'm just going to be videoing you for evidence, okay? In the same way as you guys video us. You for evidence, okay? In the same way as you guys video us. The public. Right, go on then.
Okay, so I'm quoting to you from the Civil Aviation Authority website. It says here: do not fly closer to people than 50 metres. Well, you were certainly within 50 metres of me when I stood in the middle of the DVSA check site.
Right.
Okay, so I suspect you of then breaching that regulation, so I'm asking for your details.
Right, so which class of drone does that refer to?
Bear with me. If you're flying a drone or model aircraft that's below 250 grams, you can fly close to people than 50 metres.
It's like that, we've gone from a casual conversation to a direct request for personal details. Notice how quickly the tone shifts here. It starts friendly, just a chat, but within moments, it becomes investigative. That's a classic transition, and it's one you should always pay attention to. Because once an officer asks for your name, the situation has fundamentally changed. Now here's the key issue, the justification. The officer claims an offense has been committed, but doesn't actually define what that offense is. And that's a problem. Because legally, suspicion isn't just a feeling, it has to be grounded in something specific. Right now, we're seeing confidence without clarity.
Found that drones that are below 250 grams, you're allowed to fly closer to people than 50 metres and over their heads. So therefore you don't suspect me of committing an offence anymore, do you?
Well, I'm not trying to trick you. You've come to a traffic officer's course. There's a number of officers in there doing some traffic work.
Right.
You're flying a drone over our heads. It's distracting us from our work, and it's potentially a safety issue. So I've come out to discuss that with you.
Right.
And the first thing you want to do is to film me and refuse to give me any details.
The first thing you want to do is accuse me of committing an offence and start making up laws and saying that I have to give you my details when you know I don't.
I asked you your name. You said no.
Yep.
You then asked me quite understandably, do I have to? I've said, I suspect you may have committed an offence. You said, what offence? So I'm now looking at, if you want specific action section, then I'll do what I can to try and find that for you.
Well, do you want me to help you out with that? I'm not committing an offence.
Okay, because what's your understanding of...
Because you've just read the rules out and I'm within those rules.
The weight of your drone.
Well, I'm telling you that it is within the rules. You saw how small it was. So unless you reasonably suspect that it's heavier than that...
Okay, keep at least 150 metres away from residential, commercial and industrial
What class of drone's that?
Well,
I'm telling you, it's ones that are...
Here's where things start going in circles, and this is a huge red flag in any legal interaction. Watch closely. The officer keeps repeating that flying a drone in public is an offense, but that statement alone doesn't hold up. Why? Because laws don't work like vague ideas, they require specifics. Acts, sections, clear violations. What we're seeing here is something very common: assertion replacing explanation. The officer sounds sure, but when pressed for details, there's hesitation. And the auditor knows exactly how to handle that. He doesn't argue aggressively, doesn't interrupt, he just keeps asking for clarification. And that's where the imbalance becomes obvious. Because the more he asks, the clearer it becomes. There may not actually be a solid legal foundation behind the claim. So now the question shifts from, did he break the law, something far...
Well, I'm allowed to fly my drone over there, unless you've got specific agreements with the Civil Aviation Authority to say that I'm not allowed to fly my drone over there.
I'll tell you what I'll do, because we have a team of drone operators within the police.
Yep.
I will try and get hold of one of them. I'll say I've got a chap here who's not being very forthcoming with anything at all.
I am. I've explained all the rules to you.
You won't even tell me who you are.
Well, why should I tell you who I am? So I know I'm not committing an offence.
You haven't given me any rules. You've just said I'm allowed to fly my drone.
Yeah.
You haven't quoted any rules.
Well, I have. I've explained to you, when you've read up those rules, I've explained to you that I know I am allowed to fly there because there's no legislation that says that I'm not allowed to fly there.
Okay. I'm happy to admit to you, sir, my specialism is traffic. So
right.
I'm operating outside of my area of expertise.
Right.
But
well, I'm helping you out here, aren't I, by telling you what the rules are.
Well, we'll get our colleagues
okay.
to know the rules.
Forgive me for saying this, but I can't let people go and just disappear off and not give any details. If I suspect an offence has taken place and you're just refusing me details, then you're telling me that you haven't broken the law, because it may be that you have.
Maybe I have.
It may be that you have.
Yeah,
I suspect you may have committed an offence.
Well, I haven't.
Forgive me for not knowing the action section.
Okay, well, obviously, if you arrested me for failing to give you my details when I know I haven't committed an offence.
Turning point. The officer finally brings out what sounds like official guidance: don't fly within 50 meters of people. On the surface, that sounds convincing. But here's the catch: it's incomplete. And in law, incomplete information can be just as misleading as incorrect information, because what's missing is the classification detail. That 50-meter rule doesn't apply universally, it depends on the weight of the drone. And the auditor knows this. So instead of arguing emotionally, he does something much more effective: he asks about the class of drone. That one question changes everything. Because now, the conversation shifts from general statements to technical accuracy. And once that happens, the officer's position starts to weaken. This is where knowledge becomes power. Not volume. Not authority.
You being stopped by the police unnecessarily. I don't know why we need to
Well,
have
it's
a
quite an
conversation
interesting.
about it.
Well, it's quite an interesting site, and I want to film it. I know that I'm within the law to do that, and I'm quite entitled to do it.
And
You've come out here threatening me that if I don't give you my details, I could be arrested.
I never said that.
Well, that is the case, though, isn't it? You say you suspected me of.
I've never threatened. The first person to mention arrest was you.
No, you
All
said
I
that you
was-
suspect I might have committed an offence, so therefore I have to give you my details. Now, if you suspect I've committed an offence and I won't give you my details, what's your next course of action?
Well, I'm going to get some advice. I've then said,
The
look,
arrest,
I'll be
wouldn't
honest
it?
with you, sir. You're speaking to a traffic officer about something to do with drones. It's outside
Right.
my area of expertise.
Okay.
And I've asked for you just to be patient with me while I get some specialist advice from officers within the police who know something about drones.
Okay, well,
And
fair
it may
enough.
be
I
that
think you've been reasonably humble about it.
Maybe I'm always honest with people. I don't know every law. I certainly can't. Even traffic stuff, I wouldn't know acts and sections. I'd have
Yeah.
to go into my books. So I am well outside my area of expertise. My only concern is
Yeah.
the little bit that I've encountered in the news or just reading magazines about drones. I do have concerns about you flying it within probably 20 metres of my head and my colleague's head.
Right.
When we are trying to.
I can fly it where I like.
249G written on the side.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to get a set of scales out and weigh your drone.
Okay, it's all weighing in my favour now, though, isn't it? You've looked on the CEA website. I've explained the rules to you. I've shown you that it's a 249 gram drone. So now you know I'm not doing anything wrong, perfectly within the rules, so I can take off again and carry on with what I was doing, can't I?
Not until we get that advice from officers that know more about the legislation.
Well, the issue is, sir, the mechanics and my colleagues in there who are working around heavy bits of machinery are concerned because right above our heads we've got a bit of buzzing machinery. We don't know who's doing it. We don't know anything about it.
You've got like massive 100-ton aircraft flying over your heads. You know, that surely that'd be more of a worry than a little 250 gram thing that's buzzing over your head.
I can only pass on what I feel. It's distracting me from my work. It's distracting colleagues. They're looking up at what might be buzzing, what's buzzing just above their heads, whilst they're trying to work around 13-ton cranes which may suddenly move or have a defect. So I'm not trying to be awkward. I just want my colleagues to be safe. I want me to be safe, and I want to make sure that if it is fine, then I may have learned something today. And I'm more than happy to admit that I'm not here to be tricked. Everything's being filmed.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't want to look a wally on YouTube, whatever I may end up on.
The momentum has officially shifted. The auditor calmly explains the under 250G rule, and suddenly, the officer's certainty starts to fade. This is a textbook example of what happens when someone introduces specific, verifiable into a conversation built on assumptions. Notice the tone change. The officer is no longer asserting, she's now explaining her intentions, talking about safety concerns, and stepping slightly away from the original claim of an offense. That's not a coincidence. That's pressure, because once the legal argument weakens, the focus often shifts to something broader, like safety or disruption. And while those concerns can be valid, they don't automatically equal a legal violation. So now we're in a different phase of the interaction.
I think the public, we should be able to do it, and we shouldn't be able to have like stormtroopers coming out telling us that we're not allowed to do it.
Do you think I'm a stormtrooper?
Well, I'm just saying, you know, you guys, the way you're dressed, you know, with stab vests, and you're kind of like your badges. Sorry.
I have to identify myself as a police officer, otherwise.
Yeah, but what's this? That's not part of the uniform, is it?
It's to explain which team I work on. I'm part of the no excuse team. It's a traffic department within Exeter Road Policing.
Okay.
It is. If you want to check Twitter or Facebook, it is.
Is that provided by the force, that badge, or is that something you had to source yourself?
That's something I source myself. I'll be honest with you.
So okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that the uniform policy says that you're not allowed to decorate your uniform with badges that aren't issued by the police.
We are going well away from the reasons why I came out here to have a chat with you in the first place.
Okay.
You seem to have many questions about the police. I came out here to try and discuss with you about the drone.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to admit that I need some specialist advice about the drone.
Yeah. Okay.
I've already taken out.
Well, I think you've been quite reasonable about it, to be fair.
Okay.
But you know, as soon as you work,
stopped by the police and I wasn't a policeman.
Yeah.
I also may have some questions. So I understand the position you're in. If you don't deal with the police,
and only be policed by laws that actually exist, not just because of an opinion that individuals hold.
And I am very aware, having done this job for 15 years, that if there's no power to do something,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I wouldn't want to waste my time doing it, and also it would be unlawful for me to start trying to enforce things that don't exist.
Okay.
I'd say for me it was a simple safety issue. I came out here, I saw you controlling the drone.
I was hovering above the building, to be fair, wasn't I? I wasn't
Well,
actually.
I don't know if you can see, but between where your drone was
Yeah.
and the path you've had to take to get to and from that, you're going over an area where vehicle examiners are doing their work. Some of them are flying on their backs underneath heavy machinery.
Yeah.
If you were trying to do a job that required a bit of delicate concentration, perhaps you might find that distracting. I
Distracting,
don't know what
but
you do for a living, but I'll say it's a safety issue for me.
yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I'll say,
Okay.
in terms of the technicalities, I'll admit I don't know the technicalities about drones. I think my colleagues there, there's a drone team as part of the police, and I'm more than happy to take some advice on this.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I think you've been reasonable about it. Hopefully you think I've been reasonable about it too. I mean, obviously I haven't provided my details because I know I haven't committed an offence.
And I'm not entirely sure of my powers on drones, so I'm not going to push that point.
The sergeant arrived.
Just when things couldn't get more tense, a security guard enters the scene, and everything escalates. This is where professionalism really starts to matter, because unlike police officers, security personnel have very specific rules they must follow, including clearly displaying identification, but instead of calming the situation, the tone shifts in the opposite direction. We start hearing dismissive language, Google lawyer, which is usually a sign that someone is losing the argument and switching to personal attacks. That's never a good look, and here's the